Ray knew he should go to sleep, but he chose to read another story about a husband who went out with another woman. Were these stories true? Could people really hurt someone they cared about in this way? Ray's thought was filled with the stories, which made him doubt and suspect things. He started to pay more attention to his wife Pamela and think about everything she did and said. He got angry if she got too close to other guys when they went dancing. He looked through the laundry baskets for signs of betrayal. Ray met his wife at the wedding of her sister Sandy. The person getting married was a swinger, but he had no idea. It was love at first sight between Ray and Pamela, and they got married the next year. Kyle came along the next year, and Kayla came along 2 years after that. There was no doubt that they were the ideal family. But because Ray and Pamela worked different jobs, they didn't see each other very often. Then there was Sandy and her husband Bob. They loved going to parties and were said to live a swinger lifestyle. Ray had never liked Bob because he saw him flirting with Pamela at their wedding reception. He and Pamela decided not to talk about their past relationships. It was clear that they were both jealous. Pamela asked Ray one day to fix Sandy's kitchen sink, which was leaking. With a grin, Ray said, "Sure, I can take a look. I might be able to fix the pipes while I'm there." Pamela's eyes lit up. "Sir, don't even think about it. That's my sister you're talking about." Ray held up his hands in mock surrender. "Relax, I'm just kidding." But as he headed out the door, he couldn't help but wonder about Sandy and Bob's rumored exploits. Sandy had always been a shameless flirt, even with Ray. But he knew better than to risk his marriage over a fling with his sister-in-law. Didn't he? When Ray arrived at Sandy's house, she greeted him at the door wearing nothing but a flimsy bathrobe. "Come on in," she purred. "Coffee's on if you want some." Ray's mouth went dry. "Ah, thanks. I'll just take a look at that sink." In the kitchen, Ray bent down to examine the pipes under the sink. When he stood up, Sandy was right behind him, her robe hanging open. "What are you doing, Sandy?" Ray stammered, backing away. "What does it look like?" Sandy replied, advancing on him. "I want you, Ray. I always have." "Stop it. I'm just here to fix the sink." "This isn't right." Sandy's eyes narrowed. "Are you still planning to sleep with me?" "Not at all." "Without a doubt." "For Christ's sake, Pamela is your sister. I love her." "Okay," Sandy spat. "Do what you want. I'll tell Pamela you tried to force yourself on me if you don't give me what I want. What do you think she'll believe?" Ray ran out of the house quickly. He called Pamela but didn't hear back. His thoughts were all over Sandy's threat and what it might mean for his marriage while he was at work that night. Sandy's car was in the yard when Ray got home the next morning. Bob was quickly pulling up his trousers, Sandy was grinning from the couch, and Pamela looked scared and very drunk. "What the heck is going on?" Ray let out a roar. He swung his hands at Bob and charged. In the confusion that came after, Ray was hit from behind. It all turned black. Ray had a terrible headache when he woke up in the hospital. Being hit with a Vossies hurt Ray's head, and a police officer stood by his bed and told him that. It looked like the charges against Ray had been dropped. In his defense, Bob said Ray had struck him when he got home mad. Pamela could only remember Ray yelling. Everything was a mess. Not at all what Ray had planned when he left for Sandy's that morning. "I have nothing to say," Ray told the officer. "You're lucky, Mr. Harper," the cop replied. "No charges filed. But I suggest you think long and hard about your actions." After the officer left, Ray's head throbbed, both from the injury and from trying to make sense of what had happened. He couldn't live with a cheater, but he needed answers. He called his sister Amy to come pick him up. Just then his phone rang. It was Pamela. "Do you want me to come get you? We need to talk now that we're even." Ray's blood boiled. "Even? You slept with Bob?" "Amy is on her way to get me. I'm going to get my things and leave." "Leave?" Pamela cried. "Ray, I was just getting back at you for what you did to Sandy." "Ray talked to Pamela at home," Pamela said. "Sandy told me you forced yourself on her," Ray replied. "That's not true. She grabbed me and said she would lie if I didn't sleep with her. I left right away." Pamela had angry and hurt looks in her eyes. "Why should I believe you? Why would my sister lie about that?" Ray yelled. "Because she's jealous. She and Bob like to swing, and they wanted you to join in. In my eyes, our marriage is over because you let Bob have you." Pamela said, "No, I only did it to get back at you." Sandy knew specifics about what took place between you two. Ray's face turned red with disgust. "There's nothing but a whore in your sister. Like most of the guys in town, I slept with her when we were in high school. But that was a long time ago, before I knew you." Pamela had tears in her eyes. "I no longer know what to believe." Ray said in a cold voice, "This isn't just about Bob, it has to do with trust. Why didn't Sandy tell the cops that I raped her if I did it? Pamela, you need to face it. In order to get Bob, you used me as an excuse." Pamela cried, "No, Ray. I love you. Ray snarled that sleeping with other people is not part of love. Monday's the day I file for divorce. Oh no, this wasn't meant to happen. As he packed his bags, Ray didn't listen to her pleas. You can say anything to the kids. I don't want to talk to or see you. Amy can set up times for Kyle and Kayla to visit. Ray worked extra hours and stayed in cheap rooms for a few weeks while he tried to get his life back on track. He talked to a lawyer and asked for a divorce. Ray picked up Kyle from school one day when he was sick. The phone rang while I was at home getting some of Kyle's stuff. Sandy it was. Ray put his cell phone on record and heard Sandy admit that she had lied about the attack. This showed that Bob was involved in the whole plan. After Ray left with Kyle, Pamela called and texted him a lot to say she was sorry and begged for forgiveness. It was too late for Ray, though. He could no longer trust her because she was so quick to think the worst about him and end their marriage. When Ray signed the papers for the divorce, he did so with a sad heart. After that, he went to a nearby pub to drink away his sadness. He saw Bob across the room by chance. It was like all the anger and pain from the last few months came back at once. Ray let out his anger and beat Bob so badly that he was lying on the floor in a heap. I hope you rot in hell, you son of a bitch, Ray shouted as three guys yanked him off Bob. He thrashed wildly as they dragged him outside, where police officers slammed him to the ground and cuffed him. This time there would be no drop charges. Ray was headed to prison. With his one phone call, Ray contacted Amy. I really screwed up this time, sis, he said wearily. Don't bother with bail, I'm just gonna do my time. He could hear Amy crying as he hung up the phone. Over the next 2 months, Pamela tried repeatedly to visit Ray in jail, but he refused to see her. When his court date arrived, Ray pled guilty to assault charges. The judge sentenced him to 2 years, minus time served. Ray, Pamela still loves you, Amy insisted when she visited. Her whole family is furious about Sandy's lies. And Pamela never signed the final divorce papers. You're going to jail, a married man. The first 2 months were a constant struggle, landing him in the infirmary twice as he fought to prove himself. His cellmate was a lifer nicknamed Killer, rumored to have stabbed his cheating wife and her lover 80 times. He'd even killed another inmate the previous year. But eventually things settled into a tense routine. Killer even started talking to Ray, sharing stories about his own fall from grace. On Visitor's Day, Ray was shocked to see Pamela waiting for him. What are you doing here? Ray, I love you, Pamela sobbed, sliding photos of the kids across the table. I messed up really badly, but I'll wait for you. If you still love me, we can get through this. Ray just stood there and walked away, leaving Pamela to cry at the visitor's window. Ray heard other prisoners making plans to attack Killer. Ray didn't want to be called a rat, but he had to tell his cellmate. Killer looked at Ray with suspicion, but he was careful. The next day, Killer tricked the person who was going to attack him. He had books hidden under his shirt, which blocked the knife. The attacker was swarmed by Killer's crew, who beat him badly before guards stepped in. Killer finished his dinner without a fuss, as if nothing had happened. After what happened, Killer and Ray became friends, which didn't make sense. Killer showed a softer side when they were alone in their cell. I want to know about Pamela and the kids. He talked sad thoughts about his grown children, who, except for his youngest daughter Anna, never came to visit. Killer told her, she knows her mother was the one who broke up our family. I won't let her come over, but she writes to me every week. This place is not safe. Killer was very proud as he talked about Anna's new job as a lawyer. Ray then talked about how Sandy had lied to him and how he felt about Pamela. Still love her? Killer asked bluntly. Ray sighed. Yeah, I do, but I hate what she did to our family. Does she still love you? She says she does. But I don't know if I can ever forgive her. Killer fixed Ray with a piercing stare. Why the hell not? Look around you, kid. You've hit rock bottom. If a woman loved me enough to wait for me in a place like this, I'd be the happiest man alive. But what about the mistrust? The infidelity? Killer barked out a harsh laugh. Hell, you killed for the same damn reason I did. Take it from me, don't hold on to grudges. It'll kill you slowly from the inside out. Killer's words stuck with Ray, forcing him to examine his own heart. What would he do when he got out? No job, no future, no family. The prospect was terrifying. A month later, Pamela visited again. The kids miss you so much, she told him. Is it possible for us to be a family again? I'm ready to do anything. Ray was unsure. Pamela, I want to forgive you, but I see you and Bob every time I close my eyes. Pamela said. I hated every second of it. Seeing your face that night made me feel very sick. I would give everything to go back in time. Ray started to lose his willpower. But after a few weeks, Amy came over with bad news, she said. I drove by the house yesterday. I saw Bob and Sandy's cars in the driveway. Ray's mind was torn between confusion and anger. Was Pamela always telling him lies? Around this time, Killer said he could help with Ray's parole case because he had been a lawyer before. Even though Ray wasn't sure about the older man's words, he admired him and chose to believe him. When Ray went before the parole board, they asked him a lot of questions about how he was adjusting to life in jail and how he planned to find housing and work when he got out. Ray gave the most honest answer he could, saying that his sister was willing to give him a place to stay and that his old boss was willing to hire him again. "How likely do you think it is that you will go back to prison?" Question from a board member. "I promise I will never see the inside of these walls again," Ray said. Killer asked Ray how the hearing went when he got back to his cell. Ray gave a shrug, not knowing what the future held for him. Ray replied, "I told them what you said." "Were you really trying to get me to leave early?" Killer laughed. "Kid, you never know. But if you get sprung early, I'll be looking forward to getting that weekly pack of cigarettes on my work account." After a few days, Pamela came back for another visit. Her nerves made her say that someone from the parole board had come by the house. "Are you going to leave soon?" "What did they want?" Ray pressed. "What did you say?" Pamela said, "Just checking to see how we're settling in and if you could live there while we're apart. I told them I'd love to have you back home." Ray's eyes got smaller. "I thought you were no longer seeing Sandy. Is that real?" Pamela moved in an uncomfortable way. "Ray, she's still my sister." "I don't see her very often." "What about Bob?" Ray stopped her. "Last time I saw him." "Why do you want to know these things?" "Because I can't trust a damn word out of your mouth," Ray snapped. "You swore you were done with Sandy, but she and Bob were at the house. Did something happen with Bob again? Is that why you're so worried about me getting paroled?" "It's not like that, Ray. I can explain. Save it." Ray snarled. "Tell your damn lover that when I get out, I'm gonna finish what I started that night at the bar. And if you're fooling around behind my back again, I'll deal with you too." Pamela fled from the visitor's room in tears. Ray's suspicions had been confirmed. He was headed right back into the same mess that had landed him in prison to begin with. He didn't really want to kill anyone, but he'd be damned if he didn't scare them good and proper. That night, Ray called his sister Amy and asked her to visit as soon as possible. When she arrived the next day, he spilled everything about his conversation with Pamela. Amy sighed. "Oh, Ray, I'm so sorry. I had no idea things were still so complicated with Pamela." Ray nodded grimly. "I need to know what's really going on. Can you keep an eye on the house, see who's coming and going?" "Of course," Amy assured him. "I'll do whatever I can to help." As Amy was leaving, she paused. "By the way, the parole board contacted me too. They wanted to know if you could stay with us if you get out early." Ray's eyebrows shot up. "What did you tell them?" "That you're always welcome, of course. Kenny's on board too." "Thanks, sis. I don't know what I'd do without you." "Oh, and they also called Mr. Parker about your old job," Amy added. "Really? What did he say?" Amy smiled. "He said you can have your old position back. Said you were one of his best workers." For the first time in months, Ray felt a glimmer of hope. "I appreciate everything, Amy." "I just pray I don't get rejected." "You won't," Amy said confidently. "They told me you'd probably be out next month once you have a place to live and a job lined up." As Ray said goodbye to his sister with a hug, tears came to his eyes. As Amy said would happen, Ray got the call a week later. He was going to be freed the next week. He was told to meet with a lawyer instead of a parole officer, which seemed odd, had set up his early release. As Ray packed his few things, he thanked Killer profusely and promised to send those cigarettes every week. The old man might have pulled some strings, but he wasn't sure. Either way, it seemed like a nice thing to do. Amy was waiting outside the jail gates with tears in her eyes when Ray came out. Before going to her house, they gave each other a tight hug. Kenny greeted Ray warmly when they got there. "What should I do now?" When they got to the living room, Amy asked. "I guess I need to call Pamela and make plans to see the kids. I promise I won't cause any trouble." When Ray called, Pamela agreed to let him visit, but warned she'd call the cops at the first sign of trouble. Ray assured her he just wanted to see his children. The reunion with Kyle and Kayla was emotional, the kids running to Ray screaming, "Daddy, Daddy, you're back!" He hugged them tightly, marveling at how much they'd grown. On the porch afterward, things were tense between Ray and Pamela. "What do you want?" Ray, she asked warily. "We're no longer a family. I want to move on with my life." Ray told Pamela, "These are also my kids. I want to live with them. You lied to me again, and I was ready to forgive you." When Pamela ran back to Bob and Sandy, her eyes lit up. "You were locked up." "I was by myself." Ray told her to stop talking. "I know that you two have been sleeping together. I no longer care who you're screwing. But I'll take my kids away from you if they are exposed to that bad way of life. That's not just a threat either, Ray. I would never hurt my kids." "Okay, you've already hurt our family because of Bob. I'm telling my kids to stay away from those kinds of people. I'm going to see my lawyer tomorrow to talk about my rights as their father." Pamela's face got squished up. "Ray, please. It's not what you think. Ray was already leaving, though. He had said enough. Putting his life back together and being there for his kids were now his top priorities. Ray went to the law offices that had set up his release the next day. He told the front desk worker, "I have an appointment with Mr. A.J. Brady." She laughed. "Miss Brady will be right there with you soon." Ray made an angry face. It was clear that the card said A.J. After a few minutes, a beautiful woman in a clean blue suit walked up. "Mr. Harper?" She put out her hand and said, "My name is A.J. Brady. Let's talk about your situation when you come into my office." Ray was mesmerized and followed her. After they were settled, A.J. told them, "A friend we both know asked me to look over your case. Your last lawyer did a terrible job for you. There were important mitigating factors that weren't properly taken into account." "Why me?" "Who hired you?" A.J.'s eyes glistened with emotion. "My father, Dave. You might know him better as Killer." Ray's jaw dropped. "You're Anna? His favorite daughter?" She smiled. "Angelina Juanita Brady at your service. Now let's discuss your case over lunch, shall we?" As they ate at a quiet restaurant, A.J. briefed Ray on his parole officer and requirements. When Ray tried to learn more about her personally, she gently deflected. "Ray, it wouldn't be appropriate to discuss my personal life with a client." "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen," Ray blurted. "Those dimples when you smile," A.J. blushed. "Ray, I told you I don't date clients. But thank you. Now let's get back to your case." "At least tell me about your legal background," Ray pressed. "As your client, don't I have a right to know?" She fought a smile. "All right, fine. Law degree on full scholarship. I've specialized in criminal law for years now." They finished lunch, during which Ray found himself completely captivated by Anna. "Will I see you again?" he asked hopefully as they prepared to leave. "Next week to go over some parole paperwork," she replied. "We could have lunch again if you'd like." "My treat this time." "Sounds great," Ray grinned. "Remember, it's just business," Anna said firmly, though she couldn't quite hide her smile. Back at her office, Ray held her hand a moment too long as they said goodbye. He hoped she didn't think he was some weirdo ex-con. As he left, he told her how much he was looking forward to next week. Anna's secretary gave Ray a knowing grin as he departed. He supposed most lawyers weren't quite like Anna. For the next 2 Mondays, Ray met with Anna as scheduled. She tried to keep things strictly professional, but Ray sensed a growing connection between them. 1 week later, Anna informed Ray that their business was concluded. "So you're not my lawyer anymore?" "Of course I am. You can always call if you need me." "In that case, Anna, I'm firing you." "What? After everything I've done for you? Pro bono no less?" "Yeah," Ray nodded. "You don't date clients and I want to take you on a real date. Dinner, dancing, the works. I know I'm just an ex-con and a factory worker, but I want to get to know you. And I think you want that too. Ray, I am attracted to you. But what will people think? Who cares what anyone thinks? Give me one date. Follow your heart for once." Anna sighed. "God, I know I shouldn't. But okay, one date. And don't you dare expect to sleep with me." That Saturday, Ray borrowed his sister's car and picked Anna up at her apartment. She looked stunning in a little black dress. Over wine and a fancy dinner, Ray asked about Anna's past. "My parents split up when I was 14, she explained. Dad's been in prison for 14 years now. My siblings and I were raised by various relatives. They still can't forgive Dad for what he did. I'm the one who told him about Mom's affair. Sometimes I wonder if I just kept my mouth shut." "Anna, you're not responsible for your father's actions," Ray said gently. "You were just a kid trying to do the right thing." Anna nodded, blinking back tears. "After Dad went to prison, I became determined to become a lawyer. I thought maybe I could help get his sentence reduced. That's why I chose criminal law. Turns out there wasn't much wiggle room in his case. He was a pretty sharp lawyer himself back in the day. He always said he was proud of me for following in his footsteps, even if my hands were tied when it came to his case." "Have you ever been married before? Or is that off limits too?" Anna smiled. "Both. It was brief and it's none of your business. Ray, can we save the heavy stuff for another time? I'm enjoying our evening. Care to dance?" "I've got 2 left feet," Ray admitted. "But I'll take any excuse to hold you close." They swayed to a few slow songs, Ray breathing in Anna's scent and daring to kiss her hair. "Ray, I don't date much," Anna confessed. "My social circle has left me wary of most men. If your dad hadn't sent you my way, I probably wouldn't be here right now. Remind me to send him an extra pack of smokes," Ray joked. "Anna, you're the best thing that's come my way in a long time. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust. If I ever overstep, just say the word." At her door that night, they shared a kiss that left Anna staring at Ray in wonder. She leaned in for another. "Can I come in?" "Not tonight, Ray. It's Too soon. Call me on Thursday at about next Saturday. Ray left a very happy man. They met the next 2 Saturdays as well. Anna began to open up more. Ray, if we're going to keep seeing each other, you should know more about my past, she said one night. I was married in college. Got pregnant, rushed to the altar. We were way too young. I miscarried, and we divorced soon after. I kept Brady as my last name to distance myself from my father's name, Miller. Anna, would you like to join our family barbecue next Saturday? He asked. Meet my sister and the kids. Anna hesitated, knowing it was a big step. Then she kissed Ray deeply for the first time. Okay, Ray, she smiled. Count me in. What can I bring? Ray still saw his kids every weekend. They told him their mom was dating a teacher named Pat. Ray was wary at first, but the kids seemed to like Pat and his young daughter. When Ray asked Pamela about it, she said, I'm really trying to turn my life around, Ray. Pat's a good guy. He knows all about you and respects that you're their father. Ray nodded. Pamela, your lies ruined us. If you care about this man, be honest with him. Don't mess it up like you did with us. Ray found a small apartment about a mile from Pamela and the kids. It had 2 bedrooms so the kids could stay over on weekends. He still visited Amy's place often for meals and to see the family. One morning as Ray made French toast, he turned to Anna. Will you marry me? Tears welled in her eyes. What's wrong? I'm just thinking about my dad, she explained. He won't be able to walk me down the aisle. When Anna visited Ray at work a few days later, his smile faded seeing her tears. What's wrong? He asked, concerned. I called the prison, she said softly. My dad can't leave to attend our wedding. His life sentence means just that. It's out of my hands. I'm sorry, Anna, Ray said, pulling her clothes as she cried. Her father's cancer had returned, giving him only months to live. Ray felt helpless, wondering why life was so cruel to this good person. Anna, I've been buying your dad cigarettes, Ray confessed. It was our deal. It's okay, Ray. He trades them for other things. You didn't cause this, she assured him. Ray had an idea but kept quiet, not wanting to raise false hope. After saying goodbye to Anna, he went straight to the prison, determined to speak with Killer and the warden. Killer smiled when he saw Ray. Take care of my girl, son. She deserves better than an old con like me. Ray pitched his plan. Killer hesitated but agreed if Ray could convince the warden. The warden was skeptical. You want to get married in prison just so her father can attend? Yes, sir, Ray replied. She hasn't seen him in 14 years. He's dying. We only need the chapel for an hour. The warden relented, setting strict conditions. Ray raced back to tell Killer, who gave him a bank account number for Anna. At Anna's office, Ray broke the news. How about getting married in prison? Her tears of joy said it all. God, I love you, Ray. They visited the bank, where Anna accessed a safety deposit box. Inside was a letter from her father, her mother's engagement ring, and bonds to pay for the wedding. It was a bittersweet moment.